Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting edition of Transformers Reviews. Today, guys, I am sorry, I don't know what happened there on my tongue. I just didn't know what I wanted to say. I was about to say glad, but I'm not quite sure about that. Maybe one of these figures I'm glad to bring you. The other two, maybe not so much. But today, guys, we are going to actually look at Ravage, Rumble, Frenzy, and Laserbeak. Now, let's go ahead and just take a look at, this would be Laserbeak. Now, I love the fact that they kind of are incorporating modern day technology, because they say that all three of these guys are spy tablets, whatever that is. But you look at what's on the screen on like Laserbeak, and I love this. It has a version of his original tape deck, and it says playlist, work mix, anti-autobot, and you know, it has record, intercept, and I love the little emblem there. And you know, okay, so in each one of these guys in tablet mode, they're great, no complaints there. Let's go ahead and take a look at Frenzy or Rumble. I'm gonna just call him Rumble because, well, Rumble, well, okay, we're not gonna get into that can of worms. He's a nice, I don't know why, and I'll have to look at this later when I'm editing it, but it looks pink on my camera, but this is actually a nice kind of deep red. And you know, you look at just kind of like again, there's a nice little emblem. You look at kind of the sound waves that are penetrating into the ground, kind of, and it looks like he's kind of targeting an Autobot. And what is this? What does that say? I have to look at it here because I can't tell. Equalized, kind of like on a equalizer bar for sound and everything. Which, considering that his original iteration had pile drivers on his arms, I kind of get that. And that he's Soundwave's little minion. So it's a nice little play on that. And Ravage here is kind of interesting because each one of these screens, as you've noticed, is kind of tailored to which character they're doing. So Ravage, being a tracker, you can see he's got this little deal here, kind of a map of the terrain, you know, just the status and just other stuff. So I love the amount of detail that they actually put into this. That's totally awesome. I love that. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do is, with these guys, to give them a little bit more of a, well, before we go into that, let's go ahead and show you. These guys can work with either Soundwave or Blaster. Now, as I don't have Soundwave, I'm going to go ahead and take Soundwave, Blaster's deal out. Any one of these guys, it doesn't matter. Just go ahead and stick Ravage in there. Boom. So, since Soundwave is essentially just a remolded version of this, the mechanics should still work the same. You just drop down the tape deck, and boom, they come out. You know, we'll just go ahead and stick Ravage, or Rumble in there. Same thing. Okay? Why not? One more time. Just to show you. All three of these guys work just the same. So, anyway, with that out of the way, these guys all actually are triple changers. Go figure. Actually, I think that's a pretty clever move by Hasbro, because if a kid has this and the toy does 20 different things as opposed to 2, then they're going to get a much more enjoyment out of it and more bang for your buck, right? So, let's go ahead and take a look at these guys in their alternate mode, which is not their primary. Or is that, I don't know. Forget I even said that. Let's just go ahead and take a look at them in their alternate mode. Okay, guys, here they are in their alternate modes. And to tell you what, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Frenzy Rumble here in a second. Now, between these two, if I was to ask you guys which one was Ravage and which one was Laserbeak, if you thought Ravage was on the right, you would be wrong. Now, okay, here's what, I mean, thinking on it, I can kind of get it, but wouldn't it make more sense to give Laserbeak another aerial mode and give Ravage another, you know, another ground-based vehicle mode? Wouldn't that have made more sense than, hey, let's just give him an alternate mode that swaps? Doesn't quite make sense to me. You know, I mean, okay, I guess it gives, it's kind of like that, you know, Astro Train, Blitzwing sort of deal where they have one ground mode, one flyer mode, and then, you know, their true form. It's not bad, but I think out between these two, I mean, I don't get it. is this supposed to be some sort of Cybertronian attack vehicle mode? The reason I say that is these right here form the cannons on the back of his bird mode. So now that they're flipped down and like this, I mean, I guess it could be just some sort of battering ramming deal, but I'd like to think of it more as what they are in bird mode, like cannons. So it's kind of like some little mobile artillery ground mode or whatever. Now, even though I'm giving it a hard time, it does roll extremely well. And you know what? I mean, if it's Cybertronian, you know what? I can roll with it if that's the case. Now, probably out of all three of these, Laserbeak's is the weakest vehicle mode. Personally, I love Ravage's vehicle mode. Now, even though it doesn't make sense for a Jaguar, you know, like the little bit of color on the cockpit and just the overall, even though it has somewhat of a boxy aesthetic, I like it. I mean, that kind of profile right there is really cool, you know. So, I mean, out of all these three in these modes, Ravage is my favorite. You know, all three of them I like in their tablet mode, but if we have to narrow it down here in these alternate modes where they're all different, then I'm going to give it to see, I keep getting them mentally mixed up. I'm going to give it to Ravage. But probably the one that actually comes closest to an actual realistic vehicle we see in today's world is probably Frenzy Rumble here, because you know, even though it's a little bit of a skinny tank, it nails the aesthetic pretty well. Now, because the way it transforms, the turret is locked in by these little pegs in these little areas, right? Yeah. So, but there is one thing you do besides it rolling. Because of the way it's hooked in there, you actually get a little bit of up and down motion out of the cannon, just because it just plugs in there. But you know what? I love the red and black with the little bit of tan to define the treads. That's cool. So you know what? In these modes, these guys aren't bad. So you know, they're kind of it's kind of hit and miss so far. But you're gonna see where probably the greatest strengths or weaknesses come through in their next mode. And here are these three guys in their modes that probably everybody can more readily recognize them. So we're actually going to start off with Laserbeak. And Laserbeak, there's only sorry guys, a small couple of nitpicks, if I can get it out there. And I do want to mention this right off the bat. Every angle that I've put Laserbeak in, I ended up liking. And you know what? I mean, especially this one right here, because you've got the wings, you've got the cannons back here, like I was talking about earlier. This pose right here is probably one of my favorites. Kind of, you know, the dive bombing deal. So anyway, one small issue I do have a nitpick with is actually his straight-on profile. The reason I have an issue with it is I just think the wings are probably a little too thick. And I understand that's just because of the way it transforms. Nothing that can be done about that. But you know, I would have rather had them a little bit thinner. You know, kind of maybe something like that, or you know, whatever. But it's not a total kill. I mean, I just think that it looks too thick. But you know, maybe you disagree, and if so, then fine. You know, everybody has the right to their own opinion. My other small nitpick actually comes with the wings. Now, when you're transforming it, the wings can only flip out this far. They can't go any farther that way. Now, with this deal, to help form the wings, they have this little red part that flips out. And if you look at it, it's got a mold line that matches right up with the edge of that. Now, it's okay like this. I would have preferred a little bit more. But you see, if you pull it out anymore, then you have a gap here. And anyway. But, you know, overall, just aside from those small nitpicks, I do love Laserbeak. In the show, he was one of my favorites back in the 80s cartoon. And, you know, his neck, you could put him in, you know, whatever pose you want to. And I love the dead-on, you know, head they gave him. So, sorry guys, at the end of the day, my brain is dead, and I'm trying to do these reviews, so I'm trying to avoid repeating myself too many times, which if I have, I want to apologize. Okay, next is Ravage. Ravage is just basically a recolored reuse of the Stripes mold that they for Blaster's cassette tapes. And I think right here at this angle, it's not so bad. I don't even mind the hip wings that they gave Ravage. If you look at the side of it, matter of fact, the aesthetic flows really well. You know, you've got the head here lowers like a normal Jaguar chest, and then, you know, all the way. That's fine. That's not what bothers me. It's when you look at it from a particular angle, like this. It just makes him look too kind of bulky, and even though I know that there's nothing underneath this armor piece right here, it just kind of makes him look like kind of a little too wide and fat, you know. And plus, also, another thing is if you go to move the arm, it's hindered by the armor right there. You know, you have to kind of maneuver it. So there's actually a fix for how it looks aesthetically, and the function of this is if you just lower this piece back down, then you kind of have, you see that the armor is then free to move about and stuff like that. Plus, now that it sits up above his shoulders, it doesn't look like it's part of his sides. It kind of, to me personally, it kind of looks like just kind of really flat cannons that could fire over his shoulders, which honestly I'm okay with, because remember in G1 he had the rockets on his hips, so having like these kind of cannon things. And like I said, I really don't mind the wings back here. I think it kind of gives it a unique look. And like I said, he was, you know, a reuse of the stripes mold, but even so, the head just works for Ravage. Hopefully I can get through this review without messing up too many more times. But, and like that, he's fine. You know, I think probably with this fix, like in this mode, he's probably on par with Laserbeak as far as looks, function, balanced with function. And so I think that the two of them together are probably on the same tier. They're not the worst figures ever. There's, you know, but they're not, there's just some small changes that could have been made to make them better. So moving on to the strongest one out of this entire set is Rumble Frenzy here. And I gotta say that the one thing that I wish he could have had was the pile drivers for his arms. You know, is it a total kill without him? No. I actually believe he's the strongest. I mean, you look at his robot mode here, and he is probably the closest to his G1 incarnation. The only alteration being to his legs, but that's fine, because that's, you know, what's needed to make part of the tank. But one new thing that they did feature was this little cannon on his arm. And it can just plug in there in that little hole, or even if you wanted to, you could actually just plug it in his hand and have him hold it like a rifle or whatever. So as a figure himself, I think he is the strongest out of all three that we've taken a look at. Just the reason being is that in every one of his modes, he's incredibly well balanced as far as aesthetics and functionality. So anyway guys, I hope that kind of looking at these three maybe has helped you formulate your own opinion on if you haven't bought them, maybe it's helped deter you, or maybe it's helped encourage you. So anyway guys, that's just been the review of Titans Returns Rumble, Ravage, and Laserbeak, and we will see you guys in another review.